The Irishman is a return to form for the gangster master Martin Scorsese and his usual participants, Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, and newcomer Al Pacino. I must first start by saying The Irishman is long. At almost 3.5 hours long, it feels a little bit long, but not quite that long. Part of it is because how Scorsese will give you something to think about, a little suspense, kind of reel you in, then all of a sudden, boom, he shoots like 3 or 4 people, and you're like, whoa, what happened? I didn't see that coming. I was looking at this guy, then this guy walked up and shot that guy. I didn't know what happened. So in that way, the film doesn't exactly feel as long as it really is. And it is available on Netflix. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see it in theaters. I saw it on Netflix. So it is one of those films that you can pause, go to the bathroom, get you something to eat, popcorn, soda, whatever you want to do, and come back and watch it. And it doesn't really feel like you lost anything or missed out on anything, because almost instantly after you start it back, something will happen in the scene, either great acting from the leads, Pacino, De Niro, even Pesci. In almost every scene Pesci's in, he just chews up scenery, draws your full attention, playing this cold, calculating character. And because of that, there's almost no issues with stopping and going back to the film at any time. And I think that is why Scorsese said that it is a film that can work on Netflix. Being so long, if it has intermission in the theaters, something like that, it's a long time and you're going to miss something. But when you come back and pause it, there's not really any issues of you leaving or losing any of the excitement you had before you went to the bathroom or stopped it. Because when you come back, it's almost always firing on all cylinders and hitting its stride well. Again, the acting, the highest of praise for the acting in this. De Niro does a very good job. In fact, he's putting a lot of his old men scowling, looking and pointing the finger at people away, and he's creating this character who is a little bit naive to start with, and then as he blends in a little bit more with the mob, he becomes a cold-hearted killer, but he also has this distance with his family that he's trying to close the gap with them, struggles he has, his relationship, especially with his daughter. In the early parts of the film, it's played by a young actress, don't know her name, but in the later parts, the adult version is played by Anna Paquin. And in a lot of the scenes she's in, she says nothing. All she does is look, stare at De Niro, give him an eye, kind of that looking like, should you really be doing that, Dad? What are you doing? What are you up to? Because she is his moral core in this film, and a lot of the later parts of the film deals with De Niro trying to reconcile with his daughter and have a word. In fact, there's almost no dialogue exchanged between them when Paquin is in the film and between her and De Niro. In fact, he comes up, tries to it, and you just hear her say no. It's maybe something else, I'm not for sure, and then she walks off, and the look on De Niro's face is just abject horror. He's a broken man at this point. He's at the end of his life. He doesn't really know what's going on. He wants to be with his daughter, but he doesn't get that resolution there. In all of her scenes, again, the way she's just staring him up and down, being the judging one in the situation, and doesn't really give him the chance to come back, kind of hits hard, because when you have someone that lives this hyper-masculine lifestyle, the gangster, the wanton murderer, things like that where he really doesn't care for anything outside of that life, it is hard to see him not getting that reconciliation that you're hoping for. That was one of the things at the end of the film, I'm full on hoping and rooting for that, asking for more scenes between Paquin and De Niro, and you don't get them. You get, in my opinion, just enough to push along the point that Scorsese wanted to make, in that, this lifestyle has its price, its cost, and in the end, you can't get back what you lose by going down this path. It is a good film. It's definitely it's not a good film, it's a great film. There's no way to cut it. This is one of Scorsese's best of all time. Certainly a lot of comparable things with Goodfellas. Pacino playing Jimmy Hoffa gives it a real realness to it. He plays the labor leader in the beginning of the film, being very boisterous and yelling and fighting, and he excuse me, and there's even one section where he's in court and someone comes up and tries to shoot him, and he grabs him and just beats the shit out of him, even as an old man. And a couple times later, I think it's maybe Stephen Graham plays Tony Pro. He does a great job playing a little wisecracking, basically just a little ankle biter who's yelling and screaming, trying to usurp Pacino Hoffa as the labor leader of the time, and there's a scene where they're in prison together, and just each one of them is just chewing up the scenery, and then when they start fighting, it is perfect. The film does an excellent job with the de-aging technology, as we do have actors that are in their 70s, mid or late at this point in time, and are playing characters that are 40, 50, 60, on up until the 70s, 90s, or whenever by the end of the film, and it almost is seamless in that you don't really know where it is being used and where it's not being used, especially when they reach the point where the characters are actually comparable to their on-screen ages in real life. It's a pleasure to watch. You don't really recognize it, and it is one of the best things on the film, and that they were able to do this in such a way that didn't take away from the craft that the actors were performing. Even actors or actresses that are just in it for a few scenes, a couple lines of dialogue, they chew up as much scenery as possible and actually really add to the narrative. You cannot underscore the importance of Anna Paquin's character in the film. She's Robert De Niro's daughter, his moral compass, and she actually says a lot with just her looks and how she kind of moves throughout the scene and encompasses what's going on internally with Frank the Irishman, Robert De Niro's character, in a lot of the scenes, because he is seeing her as a child that is judging a parent based on the parent's actions, and the parent trying to hide things. I would absolutely recommend The Irishman and all 3.5 hours of it. The time doesn't really feel as long as it actually is, and the convenience of Netflix being able to stop it, and couple that with the fact that Scorsese does a great job of always keeping your attention centered right there front on the screen, even in some of the longer sequences that are more white-knuckled, suspenseful kind of sequences that lead you up to all of a sudden, boom, Scorsese style, and something happens. And that really makes the time go by significantly faster than what you would think. Probably 25, 30 minutes of it you'll lose and not even think about it while watching the film, because the flow and pacing of it, along with the spooks and scares, or so to speak, that Scorsese gives you, keeps the film moving at a very sprightly pace, for, of course, the age of the actors and the length of the film. Overall, I'm sure this is going to be one of those films that's going to be nominated for a lot of awards this season, and it is well deserving of it. It is one of the best features I've seen on Netflix, one of their best original films, but when you got Martin Scorsese, can you really go that terribly wrong? Certainly not if you give him his old gangster boots and let him go out there and be a gunfighter in a way, and take a unique spin on something that actually happened involving Jimmy Hoffa and one of the many rumors about what happened in that disappearance. Thank you.